A significant announcement today over in Ottawa on Parliament Hill from the federal government where abortion is concerned. The feds are announcing $3.5 million in funding for two initiatives aimed at improving access to abortion services and reproductive health information in Canada. To talk more about those two initiatives and take some questions from us about the politics around them, Marci Ien is the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Youth. Hi, Minister. Good to have you on our program for the first time. Nice to see you.
Oh, so good to be with you, Vashi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks very much. Minister, I wanted to start off just by making clear to our viewers, this is $3.5 million from a $45 million pocket of money that was made available 2 budgets ago. So it's not new money. Is there a political motivation for making an announcement of it today? And did you do that because the Conservative debate is taking place on the stage behind me tonight?
Vashi, since 2015, our government has been very, very clear as to where we stand when it comes to women's rights and women's rights to choose. This is not new for us. This is work that we have been doing. And you mentioned, and rightly so, Minister Duclos and I, along with MP Nakfi, we're at a news conference today with grassroots organizations. People are doing work on the ground, and 2 announcements of more to come. And I will say this to you, Vashi. I talked about in my remarks the need for access and how Indigenous women, racialized women in particular, rural women, that there is difficulty there. And this announcement is going to address that, because it is one thing to, be able to have an abortion in our country. It's another thing to be able to access it. And we're focusing on the access. But this is work that has been continuing. This is not new.
I'm not trying to take away from the points around the merits of what you're announcing, but with due respect, it's not new money. It's a pocket of money that was already announced 2 budgets ago, not even 1 budget ago. Why did you pick today? Is it because the debate is happening?
Vashi, I have been doing this work, even in my previous career, looking at this, reporting all of these things, the things that I worked on for a very, very long time. I look at rights very seriously, women's rights very, very seriously, and I frankly believe if we don't uphold the rights of women, the rights to choose, frankly, what's next? I am the minister responsible for women and gender equality and youth. If we see any sort of threat to those rights, my question is, whose rights are you coming for next? What will happen next? And so this is something, Vashi, that I have been vigilant about for years and years. And it is something that our government has been very vocal about for years.
Okay, I take your point on all that. My question, though, the substance of it was about whether there's political motivation here. I'm getting the sense that you're not going to say yes to that, so I want to move on and ask about the announcements themselves. Because on the issue of access, your government has additionally made very specific promises, for example, in the last campaign, around introducing regulations to the Canada Health Act to set the standards for what equitable and good access to abortions equitable and fair access to abortions across the country would look like. Your government has not yet done that. Why not?
What we have done is made sure and been very clear about the fact that Canadians should not have to pay out of pocket for medically necessary health services, obviously including abortion. We have been clear about that. And we have been clear to the provinces and territories about that. And as you know, health transfers have been held back when that isn't happening.
Well, respectfully, they've only been held back in the case of New Brunswick. There are lots of other places in this country where, for example, access is limited to urban centers. It's not accessible in rural areas. You have not held back money or health transfers from any other province. And on my question, my original question about not introducing regulations as you did promised to do so in the campaign, can you let Canadians know, for example, if there's a timeline for doing so? Will it happen in the next few months?
I can let Canadians know that, as the Prime Minister said, everything is on the table. But Canadians also know that these things take work. These things take work. We are all working together. It is a all of government approach on these issues. And I will reiterate what the Prime Minister said and what the Health Minister said, because they're right. Everything is on the table. Things do take time. We are working diligently. We have to get things right, and we will.
Again, with great respect, I think your government has very clearly in the last week positioned itself, and the way that I've heard various ministers talk about the issue of access, as the only party that will prevent a rollback of the rights that women in this country have right now, where access and where abortions are concerned. So the reason I'm asking you about the things that you've promised is because of those claims, right? You say that you're the only party to do that, but you haven't done a lot of what you've promised. Even the $45 million, I mean, we're 2 years later, and now you're telling us how you're going to spend $3.5 million of it. So again, is there a more clear timeline? And I take your point. I'm not trying to take away from the fact that you can't just, draw regulations out of thin air. I understand that, but there are no timelines being offered. Telling Canadians everything's on the table, how does that protect their rights in the moment?
I will tell you that these are two of several announcements where we will be focused on rural areas, Indigenous areas, Indigenous communities, other communities where it is hard to get access. And so there is much more to come. These are two today, Vashi, of several announcements.
Okay, Minister, I'm out of time. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
So good to be with you, Vashi. Take good care.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.